So the show Roseanne is back. Look at this from the Hill. Roseanne ratings soar as Reboot depicts star as Trump supporter. So Donald Trump even took the time to call Roseanne to congratulate her over her tremendous ratings. Unbelievable. And it was on ABC. And get this, the show averaged 18.1 million viewers and won the night ratings-wise in both adults 18 to 49 and in total viewers. So there's no way to sugarcoat that. I mean, they hit it out of the park, son. And Roseanne, of course, was one of the top-rated shows, if not the top-rated show when it was on. I think it was on from 1988 to 1997, if I'm not mistaken. And so this is interesting, and I have a lot to say about this. So first of all, let me just tell you up front about my bias. Roseanne was one of the first celebrities who ever followed me on Twitter. So I have a soft spot in my heart for Roseanne, even though there's many issues I vehemently disagree with her on. Could you imagine that first feeling when a celebrity follows you and it's Roseanne, who was just huge in the 1990s? I was like, oh shit, this is wild. And she's even, responded to some of my tweets and stuff. So I have a soft spot for her. It's totally irrational, totally illogical, but, it's can't help myself in that respect. So, what's interesting is, so she plays a Trump supporter. Apparently her family plays, people who are not Trump supporters. And the show actually gets into the tensions in modern day America between Trump supporters and non-Trump supporters. And, I think one of the reasons why it's so successful is not only because it was a giant hit show back in the day, which is one reason, but also because that's kind of a dynamic that's left untouched on, regular TV. Oftentimes they say never talk politics and religion, and on regular TV, they really abide by that, and they kind of always steer clear of politics and religion, or they do their best to do it. And 95 to 98% of the shit that's on regular TV, that stuff isn't touched. So when you have something come along that touches on those issues, I think people get interested by that, and they're like, ooh, let's see what's going on here. This is interesting. I wonder how controversial they'll be. I wonder where they'll take this, and all that stuff. So I think it did massively well because it was huge in the 1990s, and people are curious about what they're going to do in the reboot, and then also because there was talk about how this is going to be kind of political in nature. But there is something that annoys me about the direction of the show, and that is, listen, Roseanne was one of those people who, back in the 1990s, if I'm not mistaken, the final episode of Roseanne, I think they bought the factory, and then the workers own the factory. Right? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm going off memory and off some show I saw about the 90s where they discussed it, and I could be wrong. But if I'm not mistaken, they bought the factory, and then the workers own the factory. So there was a very working class, lefty feel, very pro-union feel to Roseanne back then. And now that's obviously a message that I massively agree with. One of the main things I talk about on the show is we need to end the trade deals, and we need to have pro-union legislation, and we need to fight for the working class in America, and there's been a war on the working class for years and years and years. So I agree with that message. But now, with Roseanne being a Trump supporter, and if I'm not mistaken, in her real life, too, she kind of leans in that direction. I want to tell her, Roseanne, listen, Trump just campaigned as being pro-worker, but he's not. His policies today are not pro-worker. So we have to stop portraying him like that, because it's not true. And by the way, even on the campaign trail, only about half the time was he pro-worker in his arguments. So yes, he slammed TPP repeatedly, and Hillary Clinton was not doing that. And he was on the campaign trail in the Rust Belt saying, I'm going to keep your job here. It's going to be unbelievable. We're going to pull out of these stupid trade deals. We're going to rebuild our country. Let's get out of Afghanistan and rebuild our country. But remember, the other half the time, like he said in one of the debates, wages are too high. There were minimum wage protesters outside of the debate hall, and he was like, wages are too high. That's what we need to understand. Wages are too high. Talk about an anti-worker message. He also said, At the same time, he was arguing we're having too much war. He also said, well, we don't have enough war, and I want to carpet bomb the shit out of ISIS, and I want to, quote, take out their families, which is a war crime because you're bombing innocent civilians on purpose. So the guy was a giant walking contradiction. But listen, I get it, and I'm sympathetic to the people who said, hey, he'll maybe bust up the establishment, so we're going to vote for him over the most establishment candidate ever, Hillary Clinton, who was an abysmal candidate. So I get it. Like, I see where they're coming from, and I'm sympathetic to that. But now that he's elected and you see the policies he's doing, nobody can say, if they're educated on what he's doing, hey, he's still fighting for the working class, because it's just objectively not true. So just to give you one example, we've talked about this a bunch of times on the show, but we're the only people talking about this. Donald Trump took about $1 million from the predatory payday loan industry at his inauguration. His head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, a guy named Mick Mulvaney, took about $50,000 from the predatory payday loan industry when he ran for office. So they're swimming in predatory payday loan cash, and then shock, guess what they did? They scrapped a lawsuit that was brought against the predatory payday loan industry, and they scrapped regulations that were about to be implemented that would clean up the predatory payday loan industry, and now they could charge up to 950% interest. So that's what Trump did. That's siding with the predatory payday loan industry. Trump's tax bill raises taxes on everybody making $75,000 a year or less over a 10-year period. That's nothing but a war on the working class. 83% of the benefits go to the top 1% of his tax bill. Do you understand that? That's massively biased in favor of the rich. The estate tax, he gutted the estate tax and made us now you have to have 11 million or over in order for the estate tax to kick in. I mean, what we're talking about here is a total capture of the government by Wall Street. Now, it's been happening from the 1980s and onward, but Trump didn't fight it, he accelerated it. So this is the point. He just did deregulation. Deregulation is what led to the Great Depression and the Great Recession. Him and the corporate Democrats did it. So in other words, the point is, Roseanne, he's not for the working class. Now, I get it. The show's made now, and you got to continue going with that dynamic where Roseanne is a Trump supporter and all that stuff. But what I want to tell Roseanne is, in your real life, don't do it. There's no reason to be a Trump supporter. Listen, I get it. Nobody was harder on Hillary Clinton than me. And oftentimes when you bring up Trump to Roseanne, she talks about how, well, Hillary was terrible. I agree. So you don't have to make that point against me. I led the charge in saying she was terrible. The Iraq War, the Patriot Act, deregulation. She's owned by Wall Street. Everybody knows that, okay? Everybody with a brain who follows this shit knows that. But that doesn't mean you have to support her opponent who, when push came to shove, is a lot like her. A lot like her. In fact, he wants to be her with how much he's sucking up to Wall Street and wants to be beloved by the establishment and corporate media. So, this is my long way of pleading to Roseanne. You don't have to actually support Trump in real life because, God damn it, he's wrong about everything at this point. Okay, he really is. Even the stuff he did that I thought was good, like getting rid of TPP, well, the news came out that he's slipping the worst provisions of TPP into the renegotiation of NAFTA. So it's all a scam. And we shouldn't be surprised because this is a guy who outsources his own jobs while at the same time arguing that outsourcing is bad and we should stop outsourcing. You want to stop outsourcing, start by not outsourcing your own fucking jobs. How about that? And we saw it with the Carrier deal. He said, we're going to save the people and we're going to make sure their jobs don't get shipped overseas. Well, now the factory workers from Carrier are the biggest anti-Trump people in the fucking country because their jobs got outsourced when nobody was looking months later. So he rolled out the red carpet for them, gave them a tremendous amount of corporate welfare, and then they outsourced the jobs anyway. So this is what I'm saying. He's not for the working class. And I'm also mad at the Democrats, too, because I feel like if the Democrats weren't so obviously objectively shitty, then somebody like Roseanne would have been like, yeah, I'm with the Democrats. And you get this sense from Roseanne a lot, is that she always talks about Hillary Clinton and how shitty Hillary Clinton is. And it's like, yeah, I agree, 100%. You're totally right. But it's almost like there's a reactionary angle to this where it's like, Hillary sucks, so therefore I'm pro-Trump. And, that's the point to the Democrats. They abandoned the working class. And that's just proven over time. Remember Chuck Schumer before the last election was like, for every blue collar worker, we lose. Blue collar Democrat, we lose. We'll pick up a moderate white collar Republican in the suburbs. No, that didn't happen. You abandoned the working class, and then fucking Trump won. So the Democrats gave up on the working class. They got in bed with Wall Street. They got in bed with Big Pharma. They got in bed with the for-profit health insurance companies. So if you didn't have such an objectively shitty Democratic Party that's pro-Wall Street, somebody like Roseanne would not be pro-Trump. So I'm mad at everybody in this scenario. I'm mad at the Democrats for not being pro-worker. I'm mad at Donald Trump for being a con man and a charlatan and not doing any of the pro-worker shit that he said he was going to do or the anti-intervention shit he was going to do. I'm mad at Roseanne for still being pro-Trump to this day. I'm just mad at everybody. And I think what annoys me is that now, because of this show, and it's going to be popular, it's already popular, what's happening is there's kind of this default assumption in popular culture that, yeah, Trump's the working man guy. Especially with a show this popular, and that's how Trump's portrayed in this. Like, oh, busting up the establishment when he is the establishment. But Trump is now portrayed as obviously the working man's fucking president. But that's not true. He's an elitist billionaire who's doing the bidding of Wall Street. But now that idea is permeating pop culture of like, oh, the show Roseanne is interesting because Roseanne is pro-Trump and Trump is pro-worker, and then everybody else is an elitist coastal, kind of person. And it's like, this myth is now permeating pop culture in a way that it seems almost irreversible, and that drives me crazy.